Good morning, all of you. So, today we are going to discuss about gradient-based learning and deep learning. The topic is gradient-based learning. What is meant by gradient-based learning? It came from optimization algorithm. The name came from optimization algorithm. So gradient based learning. So first we'll see the introduction. Gradient based learning is the core training technique. So that means basic technique or important technique used in deep learning models. Whenever we are using the deep learning models, we have to use the optimization techniques. Okay, that is called the gradient based learning. Okay, second point is it involves optimizing parameters. What are the optimizing parameters? Those are weights and bias. You never forget optimization parameters. Okay, so these are the weights and bias of neural networks to minimize the loss function. Okay, so second point is so how to minimize the loss function. Okay, so with the help of weights and the bias. So third point, the optimization is done by computing gradients. The partial derivatives of the loss with respect to the each parameter and updating the parameters in the direction that reduces the loss. Okay, so here in a loss function, how to reduce the loss. Okay, that is the third point. Next, coming to the concept of a gradient. Okay, so here you want to know the what is meant by gradient. A gradient is a vector. Vector is nothing but having both the magnitude and the direction, you know. So already you have studied in mathematics. A gradient is a vector that points in the direction of the steepest increase of a function. Steepest increase of a function. So here, so what is that? In learning, we move in the opposite direction of the gradient to minimize the loss. Okay, so here we have to take the reverse direction. Mathematically, you have to be represented. So theta equal to theta minus neta dou L by dou theta. So here where in a function theta represents the model parameters. Theta represents the model parameters, weights, biases. Okay, neta learning rate. Okay, and L, capital L is the loss function. Here by using this formula in gradient equation. Okay, so this is the diagram. So that is the gradient based learning. So you can see the x-axis we are taking the weights and y-axis we are taking the cost. So what are the things you can see, observe here. So gradient is there, initial weight and incremental steps. Okay, so incremental steps means so slowly we are adding the weight values or so decreasing the weight values. Okay, so that is called the incremental steps. Derivative cost, so how the derivative cost value so will be vary. So if you see the diagram, so you can see the minimum cost. At any cost you have to get the minimum cost. So here gradient represents the slope of the equation, while gradients are partial derivatives and they derive or describe the change reflected in the loss function. So with respect to the small change in parameters of the function. So you can see here incremental steps. By adjusting this incremental weights, we need to reach the minimum cost. We need to reach the minimum cost. So here you can see, so now this slight change in loss function can tell us about the next step to reduce the output of the loss function. So this way, so you can reduce the loss function. You can see the gradient. Gradient is nothing but the slope. So here, so we are using the convex function. So here a role of loss function. So the loss function measures how far the model prediction is from the actual. So common loss function, we are using the mean square error for regression. So cross entropy loss for classification. These two are using. The goal of gradient based learning is to minimize this loss. So gradient based learning, what purpose we are using? To minimize the loss. So back propagation algorithm, back propagation, so computes gradients efficiently using the chain rule of calculus. Step 1, so forward pass. What is meant forward pass? So compute networks output and loss. Backward pass means, so compute gradients, gradients nothing but the weights of the neurons. So gradients of loss with respect to each parameter. Update, so adjust parameters using the gradient descent rule. Okay, so this is about the gradient based learning. Basically gradient based learning is used to minimize the loss of the loss function. Thank you.